Hello everyone and welcome back to this Hearts of Iron 4 tutorial. In this episode we will talk about the top left part of the screen, right here. And we're going to start off with political, right here. You can select your national focus. As you can see, I've selected Danzig or war. Everything here has its own effect on the country or different countries, other countries. And this makes sure that Poland loses claim on Poznan and they get the event Danzig or war, but it will also increase the world tension by 5. Right here you can see the traits of the leader. So he's a bitter loser and he has general staff. He's a fascist and has no elections. Here you can see the parties which exist in the country. Right here you have the Fascist Party, basically Hitler's party, the Communist Party, or Comintern Party if you want to call it like that, and the Democratic Party. Last episode I've also talked a little bit about laws and government, research and production, and military staff. As you can see, you can select different kinds of conscription laws. Of course, everything has its own pros and cons. And this is for everything. So you have limited exports, free trade, export focus, and closed economy. And also the economy law, which we have war economy selected right now, but you can also select civilian economy, early mobilization, partial mobilization, and total mobilization. And here you can select your political advisors. There are a bunch of advisors. Everyone has his own traits and perks and effects on the country. So you have to select the one that fits you most, the one you like the most, or just the one that you like the traits of, which basically is everyone. Right here you have tank designer, who's gonna design tanks and what is their specialty. So Henschel is specialized in mobile tank designers, Porsche in heavy tanks, and Mann in medium tanks. You have ship designers. Everyone has his own pros and cons again. Aircraft designer. Material designer. Industrial concern, and theorist. Military staff, there's a bunch of the guys that you can select. Everyone has his own things again, just like the political leaders. So as chief of the army we have Ludwig Beck. He is good with army organization. He's an expert and has army organization +8. Again, everyone has his own pros and cons, so select the one that fits you most. And here you can select different military high commands. Over here we have the research tab, which is basically, well, you would think it would be the same as Hearts of Iron 3, but this has basically a research tree with these numbers over here, obviously the years of which it is the most efficient to research things. So for example, I could research this 1941 tech, but it's 1.3 years ahead. And as it says, the more ahead it is, the bigger the time penalty. But of course, if you really want it, you can go for it. But then again, it's gonna take a lot longer, and it will take, keep in mind, if you're gonna do it, it's gonna keep one of these occupied until it's done. Over here you have diplomacy, basically see their relationship and your relationship with them. Well, it's called opinion, but I call it relationship from Hearts of Iron 3. You can also filter by, well, Europe, North America, South America, Oceania, Middle East, Asia, and Africa, or which countries are democratic, communist, fascist, or non-aligned. And then of course you can filter on major countries, Axis members, Allies members, and Comintern members. Over here with the trades, for example, you would be on low of oil. You press oil, you can see who has a lot of oil, click on him, set the amount you want to buy or need to buy to fill all your needs. It will automatically go to what you need, and you press send, which is of course a lot different from Hearts of Iron 3, because Hearts of Iron 3 had a slider with money, all that kind of stuff. This works for the same with aluminum, rubber, tungsten, steel, and chromium. Over here at construction, you have your civilian construction, so you can tell your guys to upgrade your infrastructure in your country, build air bases or upgrade them if they already exist, build some anti-air guns, radar stations, military factories, civilian factories, naval dockyards, synthetic refineries, rocket sites, but of course you're gonna need rocket technology first, and same with nuclear. You can see your buildings, like naval bases, where they are, what level they are, land forts. So for example over here you have the Siegfried line. As you can see, there are a lot of land forts that are level 3. And coastal forts, which is basically, if you're playing in 1944, which is gonna be basically all the way over here and here in Norway. Or, as you probably know, the Atlantic Wall. Also, if you are in really need of military factories or civilian factories, you could always convert your factories if you want. So for example, you need a lot more military factories because your current military factories are not able to keep up the work with what you have in your production line, and you have too much civilian factories and you're basically not doing anything with them. You can always convert them. This of course will take time to convert. Production. This over here are all your production lines that you can build. For example, there are already some basic things on a production line, and you can assign the amount of factories you want to assign to them. For example, I only want to assign 5. You're gonna remove 10 of this. Of course, it's gonna reduce the amount of things that you produce each day. So the more you add, the more you will produce a day, or week, or year, or month. Month is most of the time ships. They take a long time to build. Over here you have the 4 tabs of things you want to add to the production line. So for example, you want to add another line of industrial equipment because apparently 15 factories is not enough. You can add that, add the amount of factories you want, and you can move them up in priority. This goes for the same with armored vehicles, aircraft, and ships. Keep in mind, you cannot infinitely build things. Well, you can infinitely build things, but they're gonna need resources. For example, if you want the Panzer III, you're gonna need 1 oil, 1 tungsten, and 2 steel. This will of course go up by the amount of factories you assign to it. This is also the same with fighters or planes and ships. Of course, if you need this, you can go to the diplomacy tab, trade tab, and you need tungsten. Click on a country, select the amount you want, and there it is. being traded. So there's the production line. Now onto the recruit and deploy. So of course, you build a shit ton of tanks, a lot of infantry equipment, but it's not going to deploy itself. So you're going to need divisions to give the weapons to, give the tanks to, the AT guns, basically all that stuff. You can use your default templates over here, or you can create your own division. Select the one you already want. So for example, you want a Panzer division, go for it. You can switch these tanks out that are in here, or you can add more. For example, I want medium tanks. They're gonna add medium tanks, the most recent one. So that would probably be Panzer IIIs by now. And of course, the amount of things you add, this will go up or down. Because of course, if you add slow, like normal anti-tank guns, your speed will go down. But other things will go up, such as soft attack, hard attack, defense, breakthrough, and piercing, and armor. Once you created your division, you can of course change the name of it. For example, I'm going to call it the tutorial division. You can assign your priority to it. So for example, you can use default, reserves, or elite. This over here shows if they are able to get into planes and be paradropped anywhere. And you can also select a symbol for your division. And over here it shows what kind of modifiers you have in different kinds of terrain. For example, they're actually quite good at rivers. Not the attack, but everything else is fine. Urban, not the best thing to send tanks into. To send tanks into a city, not the best idea. And when you're done, you press save. And it should be, there it is, tutorial division, right there, couldn't find it. And of course, if you want to deploy them, you press train. You can add more units. For example, you want a division of, or a group of 5. You select 5. If you want 2 groups of 5, you can of course train them again. Give them 5 again. Of course, it's gonna take some time for them to get their equipment. For example, they're gonna need 240 light tanks, so 240 Panzerkampfwagen 2s, 50 medium tanks, and 350 infantry equipment, 150 motorized, and 40 support, which is also gonna be for all of these guys. This is the amount of time it will take to get to max. Their training. After they're done training, they will automatically deploy. But if you're like, they're only halfway trained, but you really need some troops, you can of course drop them immediately. But of course, you're gonna need to set a location of where they spawn. For example, I want this tutorial division to spawn in Prague. There it is. It's gonna spawn in Bohemia. So once they're done, or you press deploy, they will spawn over here. Same goes with this. And logistics. Logistics basically shows what you're in need of over here. I mean, we're down 1 chromium, 17 tungsten, but everything else is fine. And here you can see the amount of things that you have in reserves or that you need. For example, to fit all of our guys with weapons, we're gonna need 3.2 thousand more. Same goes with motorized, support equipment, light tanks, and medium tanks. I mean, they're all low, so you're gonna need to produce more of it. And of course, because if you're not producing enough, this will just keep going down instead of going up. And over here, you have your national unity. Same with Hearts of Iron 3. Political power, which you will need to assign generals or spawn new generals, and of course make changes in your political. You have your manpower, At the moment we have 2.8 million people in reserves, so if we create divisions, this obviously will go down because they're gonna get assigned. And the amount of factories that you have, of course, categorized in military, naval, and civilian. So that's it for this episode. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and all that good stuff, and I will see you in the next episode. Take care.